Hello there! Welcome to the 6th chapter of the Jedi Temple Guard series. This chapter will look over possible battle tactics used by the Jedi Temple Guards based off current evidence. We've established their lightsaber combat capabilities, their application of the Force through their duties, and how their equipment works. Now let's put it all together to see how they would use these in active duty. The most obvious thing one will notice is that as soon as trouble starts within the Jedi Temple, a pair of Temple Guards will appear and command that the perpetrators cease hostility. 2 more will appear from the other side to cut off the exit of the perpetrators. This was seen when Barriss Offee fought with Anakin Skywalker in the halls of the Jedi Temple. This is the first stage of their tactics, Persuasion. They are an authority figure, so to defy them is to defy the Jedi Council, who the perpetrator will no doubt have to report to if taken into custody. Should that fail, the Temple Guards will close in to stop the hostilities themselves. In the case of the battle between Anakin and Barriss jumped out of a nearby window and into a plaza where a group of Jedi Padawans were training with Jedi Master Tera Zenube. As Anakin and Barriss are dueling, 4 Temple Guards with their pikes ignited come to surround the two, making sure to not get in Anakin's way, while cutting off the path to the younglings. If Anakin was not there or defeated, the Temple Guards would take over. This is where we get psychological. Many Jedi were unfamiliar with defending against saberstaffs. They would often think they have to end up fighting against 2 blades. A sufficiently trained Jedi would know the position of the secondary blade when defending against the primary blade, but this was not the case with most Jedi. Since the Temple Guards travel in pairs, a perpetrator might think they have to defend against 4 lightsaber blades. Then 2 more Temple Guards appear behind them. Suddenly, they're up against 8 lightsaber blades. But then, 2 more appear, and now they have to defend against 12 lightsaber blades. This can seem extremely overwhelming for almost anyone, and could cause them to instead surrender and turn themselves in. While this strategy is using a form of intimidation, something the Jedi typically avoid using, it does help in resolving a situation peacefully with an opponent that doesn't have the will nor capability to defend themselves against that many lightsaber blades. This swarming tactic is seen on both the Clone Wars TV series, where they try to cut off Barriss Offee's exits, as well as swarming the Inquisitors entering the Lothal Jedi Temple in Star Wars Rebels. Should the perpetrator continue to resist, the Temple Guards are likely to resort to using the Force Bind ability. This would hold the target in place, restricting their movement. Should the perpetrator attempt to move or attack, they will only physically strain themselves as they're under the effects of Force Bind. Only someone with strong willpower or strength could be able to shrug this off enough to either fight back or escape. But keep in mind, you have multiple Temple Guards all using Force Bind on a target or multiple targets. This is another way to end the conflict without risking physical injury. Should the situation get worse, it's likely the Temple Guards would activate the stun setting on their pikes. This would allow them to stun an opponent so that they may be taken into custody and later brought to trial. As the Temple Guards were Jedi, they would be inclined to resolve things peacefully with little to no casualties, so I believe they would have mainly practiced forms 3 and 6, Soresu and Niman. As Soresu was a purely defensive form, it lacked any offensive aspects which would be supplemented with Niman. Since Niman combines lightsaber combat and Force abilities, they would instead control the perpetrator through the Force using Force Bind, Force Stun, Force Push, Force Pull, or Mind Tricks to nullify the target. Their ultimate goal would be to detain rogue Jedi without physically harming them. The only way I could see a Temple Guard utilizing their regular lightsaber setting is when a great threat is within a Jedi Temple. Unfortunately, one such event occurred at the Jedi Temple. This was of course the execution of Executive Order 66 and the attack on the Jedi Temple begun. In the event of an all-out invasion of the Jedi Temple, such as that seen in Revenge of the Sith, the Temple Guards would have turned off the stun setting on their pikes. From here, this is speculation because the Jedi Temple Guards were introduced into the Star Wars canon 8 years after Revenge of the Sith. The most likely scenario is that the Jedi Temple Guards would have been on the front lines as well as securing key sectors such as the Jedi Archives, living quarters of the younglings, and accompanying important figures. Since we've established that the Jedi Temple Guards use a Force Bind ability, I imagine they would use it to a much greater extent against the clone troopers. Imagine the following scenario, if you will. A squad of 501st troopers becomes isolated as they have to scout ahead. They enter a room only to have the doors behind them close.
Enemy recon confirmed. Run! Enemy guards! Move it! Take them out! Hold down! Hold down! Keep firing! Enemy behind! Lost it! I'm pinned down! I'm boxed in!
The Temple Guards were also likely to be accompanying the Jedi Battlemaster, Sindralig, acting as support with his fight against Vader. Regardless, just about everyone within the Jedi Temple was killed, including Jedi Battlemaster Sindralig and the Jedi Temple Guards. The Temple Guards should have been incredibly difficult to take down due to all the information we've gone over in this series. But even then, those on the Jedi Council were overwhelmed by the sheer amount of blaster bolts. It's likely that Darth Vader personally dealt with many of the Temple Guards himself, as he was an exceptional duelist and has had plenty of experience fighting saber staffs and similar weapons such as the electro staffs wielded by CIS Magna Guards. It is unknown at this time if any Jedi Temple Guards survived the events of Order 66 outside of the Grand Inquisitor, but it's more likely that the Temple Guards fought and died defending key sectors of the temple, defending the young, weak, wounded, or being among the first to perish, as they would have been on the front lines to defend their home. However, there is another, darker way this could have played out. Henry Gilroy, a writer and developer for Star Wars The Clone Wars movie and animated series, suggested an idea that the Grand Inquisitor murdered the other Jedi Temple Guards to allow Anakin Skywalker and the 501st Legion access to the Jedi Temple. Here's an audio clip from the DragonCon 2018 interview that discusses this.
So anyways, my question is, in Clone Wars, we were introduced to the Jedi Temple Guards and stuff like that. And in there, when Barriss turned to the dark side, we saw like a full squad of them come out to assist Anakin in taking her out. But when Order 66 happened, there were none of them. So I'm just thinking like one Padawan turns evil, send a whole entire squad out there. Evil Sith Lord and army of clone troopers storming and murdering everybody. Yeah, no, it's fine. Just leave them. Where were they during that whole scene?
That's a great question. There's I mean, the leader of the Grand Inquisitor was one of them, so it's very likely maybe he turned there as well, and maybe he took care of those guards, or Anakin disintegrated them.
No, actually, that's exactly what happened. So basically, what happened?
Well, there you go.
is the Grand Inquisitor was a Temple Guard, and he knew Anakin, and then the clones were on their way, so he betrayed the other Temple Guards, murdered them, and opened the door for Anakin.
Oh. Man, I'm so glad Kanan killed his.
He kind of killed himself, though.
Yeah, he did kind of let go.
I'm more terrified of Vader. Bye.
I'm just curious from the audience, how many folks were following Brian's tweets when he announced?
If this was the case, then this could be why the 501st Legion managed to overwhelm the Jedi Temple. However, this was brought up at a convention and was merely an idea, so the chances of this being the case is minimal. It's more likely the writers were just coming up with stuff on the spot to provide an answer for the fan asking the question. It may be from the words of an official writer, but just because this came from a writer doesn't necessarily mean this is the exact case. It's like how George Lucas said there's no underwear in space, yet there are various examples of it existing in canon and Legend Star Wars content. Perhaps we'll receive better answers during the final season of the Clone Wars series when it airs. Maybe the final episode will show the Jedi Temple during the events of Order 66 and hopefully show the Jedi Temple Guards putting up a Star Wars defense. We'll just have to hope we can find out in future Star Wars media what the case truly was. Fortunately for us, we don't have to guess. We get a bit of insight into the start of the attack on the Jedi Temple through the novel, Force Collector. The protagonist of the novel, Kar Nuk Sin, was a collector of Jedi artifacts. He would find his way to a shop on Batu ran by Duck Ondar, who specialized in dealing antiquities. Kar would find a Jedi Temple Guards mask and touch it, and with Kar being force sensitive, he experienced psychometry when he touched it. Psychometry is a rare force ability that one can use to acquire information from an object by touching it. Information could be sight, sound, and emotions. Kar witnessed the final moments of this Jedi Temple Guard. The Temple Guard was a male individual who was keeping watch and saw the legion of clone troopers approaching the Jedi Temple. He sensed no danger from them, and as the legion drew closer, he saw the dark figure leading them and became confused. Who was this person leading these clones to the Jedi Temple? When the figure came close enough, the Temple Guards saw that it was Anakin Skywalker and muttered,
"Skywalker?"
only to then be killed by him. This scenario is reminiscent of Anakin arriving at the temple in the Legends continuity, where he stabbed the Jedi Gate Master Jarok through the head. Perhaps this Jedi Temple Guard is Jarok's spiritual successor in the new canon? He could have been the first casualty of the attack on the Jedi Temple, and may disprove Henry Gilroy's conjecture on the situation of the Temple Guard's presence during the attack. Well, I don't know about you, but I've had enough of this dark topic for now. Let's review what we went over for this chapter. The Temple Guards follow a sequence of actions to subdue a target. This is Persuasion by using their authority, to surrounding a target with some intimidation tactics with a lightsaber displays, to subduing them through the Force, and eventually melee confrontations. This strategy is built around subduing a single target or a few targets at a time in an attempt to outnumber the perpetrators within the Jedi Temple. But this strategy may not be ideal in a scenario where the Temple Guards themselves are outnumbered. Such strategies the Temple Guards would take to deal with an all-out invasion of the Jedi Temple are purely speculatory at this point. But our best guess is that they would have been among the first to defend the temple, and because of that, among the first to die while doing so. In the next chapter, we'll take a look at possible roles the Jedi Temple Guards could have taken up outside of just defending the Jedi Temple. Goodbye, and may the Force be with you.